let's learn some 7-string chords from the music of Periphery, Rivers of Nile, and Fallujah. We'll take a look at these chord shapes, and I'll give you some theoretical knowledge about them and how they get used in these songs. If you want the tabs for these riffs and chords, as well as tabs for all of my other videos, you can join my Patreon or become a channel member here on YouTube. Links to all of that is in this video's description. Let's take a look at the chorus progression from A Home by Rivers of Nile off their 2018 release, Where Owls Know My Name. This is a very simple progression, but there's some really nice 7-string chord shapes here. This song is in G-sharp standard, so 3 half steps down from a standard tuned 7-string. I'm just going to pitch shift this down in Archetype Gojira because I don't have a guitar set up to tune this low. 2 of these songs are in standard tunings and 1 is in a drop tuning, so we'll get to look at chord shapes from both of these tunings. The chord progression here is G sharp minor with an added flat 6, then E major 7, then C sharp minor, then E add 9 to E. And in the second half we have the same first 3 chords, and then it ends with a B, and then an F sharp over A sharp. In the key of G sharp minor, this is a 1-6-4-6, then a 1-6-4-3-7 progression. It's pretty simple, never leaves the key of G sharp minor, but there's some really cool chord shapes here. It starts with this G sharp minor with the added flat 6. Now there's no third in this chord, so you could really call it an E major 7 over G sharp. But to me, honestly, that flat 6 just sounds like added dissonance. I'm still hearing this as a 1 chord. Like really, that's what my ear is hearing, and then if you listen closely, you can hear that dissonance in there as well. So that's why I'm thinking of this as a G sharp minor with that added flat 6. And then next we go to an E major 7. So we're going to take this same chord shape and change the low note to the 8th fret. And we're going to get this kind of crunchy major 7 chord. And we're actually going to see a number of major 7 chords throughout all 3 of these songs. Then we have this C sharp minor. It's a root 5th and minor 3rd. It's a stretchy voicing, but really cool. And then we have this E add 9 chord, or you could call it an E sus2. This is our prog rock power chord, so root 5th, 9th. And then the 9th is going to move up to the 3rd to make an E major chord. You could do it with this really stretchy shape, or you could do it by skipping a string. And in the second half of the chorus, we have a B power chord, and then an F sharp over A sharp. And that leads you down back to the root of G sharp. Now sometimes these guitar voicings won't have every note from a chord. In the case of this B power chord, there's no 3rd. That's kind of implied in this key signature though. In the key of G sharp minor, a B would be a major chord, not a minor chord. So that's why I'm calling this a B major. Also sometimes you might find the 3rd in a different instrument. So you might have a power chord underneath, and then you have a lead guitar playing the 3rd, or maybe a keyboard filling out all of the notes. So it's important to look at all of the parts, not just the guitar, when we're analyzing these types of progressions. Next up is the pre-chorus to the Periphery song Flatline off of P3. This song is in drop A flat, so a drop tuning a half step down from standard. Once again, I'll just pitch shift down for this one. I wanted to make sure I had songs in standard and drop tunings in this lesson since both are really common and both have a lot of great guitar chord shapes. This is actually a pretty simple chord progression. This first chord is a C sharp minor 11. This is that same minor triad I was talking about earlier, root 5th, minor 3rd. Then we have the 11th by barring, and then another root on top. And you can use this minor shape as the foundation for a bunch of bigger chords. Really nice to build these big chords off of this low power chord and then the minor 3rd. In the song, they play the chord and then do these tap notes on top where you're holding the chord and then tapping and pulling off to the chord. A really nice sound, something Periphery has done in a number of their songs. There's also this quick move from G sharp to A sharp the second time. Where you get this quick A major 7 over C sharp chord just by changing that one note. The next shape is this A major 9 chord, another really common drop tune chord. You have a 4-note power chord on the bottom, so root 5th, root 5th, and then you have the major 7th, and then the 9th. You can even do the 5th on top for a 7-string shape. A really nice chord, and just like the minor 11 chord, we have this power chord as this strong foundation for the big chord. In the song itself, they arpeggiate up this, and then strum just the top part of it. And then we go to the last chord, which is that same minor 11 chord from earlier, but a half step down in C. Then it goes back up to C sharp. This is a pretty simple progression overall. It's 1 to 6 in C sharp minor, and then we have the C minor 11 chord, which is out of key, but it's used to move chromatically up back to our C sharp minor root chord. The chorus of this song also features some really great chord shapes. There's a major 7 chord played like this. So we have root 5th, then we skip a string and play 3rd, 7th. That's a great shape. They also do the minor 7 version of that. So it's like this. So we have B major 7, C sharp minor 7, and then goes to a G sharp minor. Then we have the same shapes up higher, D sharp minor 7, to E major 7, and then to G sharp minor. So this whole chorus is in G sharp minor, and all of these chords are coming from the key. We have 3, 4, 1, and then 5, 6, 1. Once again, a very simple progression, but made a lot more interesting by these cool voicings. This isn't the exact part, by the way. We got one more song to check out. This is the song Adrenaline by Fallujah off the album Dreamless. This chorus part is full of amazing chord shapes. So we're in a standard tuning here again, this time in B standard, and it starts with an A major 7 over E chord. This major 7 shape is pretty common. We have root, 3rd, 7th, but Fallujah is putting the 5th in the bass. Makes for a much thicker chord because we have the low string, but it also makes the chord less stable and have a very different feel. We're going to see a lot of inverted chords in this chorus. Inverted chords are chords that have a note from the chord that's not the root note as its lowest note. So if you have a C major chord, C, E, G, and you have E or G as the lowest note, that's an inverted chord. We no longer have the root note of C as our lowest bass note. These inverted chords are honestly a trademark of Fallujah's sound. They use them a lot. The next chords are also second inversion chords. So we have G add 9. This is that prog rock power chord. And we have the 5th in the bass D. And then the same chord up a step. So A add 9 over E. Then we have a couple of first inversion chords, meaning we have the 3rd in the bass. We have C over E and D over F sharp. Those are both the same shape. Then we have this C major 7. And this is the exact same shape we played in Periphery's Flatline chorus, but this time in standard tuning, so this is a shape you could use in either tuning. And after that, we go back to this G add 9 over D. The second half of the chorus also starts with an A major 7 over E, but this time we have an open E and A string, and some higher frets, 11 and 13. Then we get our first shape of the chorus, but down a step. So G major 7 over D. Then we have the major 7 shape again, but this time on F, so F major 7. Then we get the weirdest chord from the chorus. This is a G minor chord with F in the bass. So it's a G minor 7 over F, or a 3rd inversion minor 7 chord. A 3rd inversion is where you have the 7th in the bass. Shape-wise, this is the same as the first chord, but we just move our pinky up a string. So guitar-wise, it makes sense why you'd play this chord. But it's a really interesting one to analyze. Next, we have an E power chord. I'd probably call this E minor 7 because it slides up 3 frets at the end. You get the 7th and the 3rd. Next, we do that move that I actually talked about earlier. So we have this inverted major 7, C major 7 over G. We move the pinky up a string. And this gives us an A minor 7 over G. And then it ends on F major 7. So the whole chorus goes A major 7 over E, G add 9 over D, A add 9 over E, C over E, D over F sharp, C major 7, G add 9 over D, and then in the second half we have A major 7 over E, G major 7 over D, F major 7, the G minor 7 over F, then E minor 7, C major 7 over G, A minor 7 over G, and then F major 7. I'm honestly having a little bit of a hard time choosing exactly how to analyze this. I imagine this was written by just experimenting with these cool chord shapes and then stringing them together, but I'm going to look at this with A as the root note. I think that feels like home in this progression. If we look at it this way, it's a classic example of modal mixture, using chords from different modes, all rooted on A in this case. The A major 7 would come from A major, the G add 9, C over E, C major 7, F major 7, A minor 7, and E minor 7, all coming from A minor. The G minor 7 over F would be from a Phrygian sound, so like A Phrygian, and then the D over F sharp, I think of that as being probably Dorian because it comes right after a C chord. But as I said, this analysis doesn't really do justice to this part. This progression really feels more like a modal progression, And I guess I did explain it using modes, but by modal I mean it feels like it's shifting key centers multiple times. And these inverted chords really add to that feeling because of their instability. But there's some really incredible chord shapes in here that I'm going to have to start using myself. So there you have it, some great 7-string guitar chords you can use in some of your own riffs and progressions. As I mentioned, you can get the tabs for these if you join my Patreon or become a channel member. And if you enjoyed this lesson, subscribe, hit the bell notification, like, comment, share, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, stay proggy.